Hello and welcome. I'm Steve.
And I'm Al.
And I am Brett.
And I love to be here because it's your 200th episode.
And this is Fools with Tools, a podcast for the bicentenary backers boy. Jesus. So, gentlemen, how I was going to say how is everyone, but I don't actually care. We're going to skip that this week. So, yeah, normally for those that whose first time this is, we would normally go around and quickly say what we've been up to this last week or so. But because of the nature of this episode, we're going to kind of skip that. So basically, this is for the this is kind of like a reintroduction episode for those people that haven't listened to us before, rather than having to go back and listen to all 200 episodes. We're just going to kind of have this as a way to jump in without having to listen to the whole backlog. Talk a little bit about who we are and what we do and the history of the podcast, I suppose. And to do that, we have Mr. Kjell, because he is the kind of the MC of the Maker event.
Compare without compare.
Hey, there we go.
I was going to say MC of the MC. We got the MC of the Maker community.
Yeah,
I think we've
MC
all
squared.
See, for anybody that hasn't listened to an episode before, we are starting here because everything prior to this is unprofessional and terrible. We figured we'd start it off well, with having Kjell here.
Perfect. And it's probably not going to be any unprofessional from here onwards. It's a completely different podcast for sure. Thanks for having me. I'm really glad to be part of this. I'm excited for this. And I brought a few odd questions for you guys to answer, and let's see.
Cool. Yeah. I honestly couldn't think of anyone better to have asking us the questions. So I guess
Laura.
we might as well. Well, I guess we might as well just go straight into it. If you're happy with that, Kjell?
Absolutely, yes. And I think it would be a good way to start this off to explain the next person and not yourself. So I'm going to start with Steve because I can very much so relate. I'm still in it. Oh, depressing. Anyway, Steve was in IT world as well. He was very good at doing IT and digital stuff. And then he took a path of dreams and became a blacksmith. If that does it a bit of justice, Steve, please.
Yeah,
go
definitely.
on.
I mean, when we first started the podcast, I was still working in IT full time. I'd been doing it for years at that point. I'd never really been entirely happy with that as a career choice. But I decided that, it was the normal thing to do. I fell into the job. I was good at it. It paid good money. It was sensible hours. It was blah, blah, blah. It's all these kind of things that society says that you must do and these boxes that are being ticked. And I absolutely hated it. So eventually started to look elsewhere. Came up with a million different schemes of what I was going to do and where I was going to go. I was going to run off and emigrate to Canada. I was going to travel the world. I was going to do this. I was going to do that. Started doing a bit of blacksmithing. And
what was in Canada? Elaborate.
So I've always had this kind of love affair with Canada because it's huge open wildernesses with wildernesses. It's huge open wilderness. It's America without Americans, as in you've got access to a lot of the American stuff without the
it's France without the food, basically.
I think a big part of it was the kind of wilderness and the ability to be able to just go off for days at a time and experience that, and obviously the bears and everything else, and it just the kind of attitude of everyone that I'd ever met from Canada always seemed quite in line with mine. And yeah, there was something about it that appealed to me, much the same way that Scandinavia appeals to me. But obviously with Canada, there's amazing people like Fern Webb, who's one of the people that listens to the podcast. Whereas Scandinavia has amazing people like Terje, but it also has people like Rasmus. So it was like, of the two, that's why Canada kind of won that, and the fact that I didn't have to learn another language. But yeah, so I was going to do that. Kind of, I'd done a blacksmithing course when I was like 18, and really, really enjoyed it. But never did anything with it because I was 18 and was like, oh yeah, this is great, I want to do more of this. But also I was working in pubs, and then I was traveling around the country working in different pubs and just kind of living the life of a 18, 19-year-old, and didn't really want to settle down with a proper career. I didn't really want to invest, or couldn't invest that much time and effort into it. And yeah, it kind of got left by the wayside. So when I saw that one of the local agricultural colleges was offering like a 1 evening a week for 6 weeks, I think it was, like introduction to blacksmithing course. I was at a point where I was very, very, very unhappy with my job and my life in general, and just wanted to have that as something that I could look at and do as a way of having something good going on in my life, because I spent most of my time working and not really gaining anything out of it. So so I booked up, did that, absolutely fell in love with it. Found that I had a bit of a knack for it, and just decided I wanted to do more with it. Got made redundant a couple months later, so was kind of scrabbling around looking for work, and just ended up falling into one job after another, staying out of the IT industry because I just wasn't interested in getting back into it. Worked as a mechanic for a bit, but the place I was working, I luckily enough was able to do just 4 days a week rather than 5, and money was a bit of an issue, but it allowed me that kind of free time to spend that extra day of the week working for another local blacksmith who I now work for full time. And yeah, I mean, there's probably a little bit more to go into in terms of like that timeline, but I don't want to take up the entire thing talking about me. But yeah, so that's how I got into this, and because I started working for a blacksmith and I was getting into it and I was interested in the maker community at large, which like a lot of people get into the maker community through YouTube, whereas I got into it through podcasts, because so after I'd been doing the mechanics job, I wasn't quite at the point where I could work full time as a blacksmith, but all of my savings and funds and everything had just completely run out and I needed to get a proper job again. So I started working in IT, doing working somewhere I was working 4 on 4 off. So I was working long hours and long shifts, and it was like I had like a 3 to 4 hour a day commute. So I started listening to a lot of podcasts and a lot of like audiobooks. And because I was getting into like the whole making thing, I literally did a search for podcasts about making, which led me to a Make magazine article, which I didn't even know Make magazine was a thing at this point. That then led me on to like their top 5 podcasts, I think it was. And number 1 was obviously Making It. Then I think it was Wood Talk, which genuinely I bypassed completely at the time because I was like, I'm not interested in wood. Why would I listen to that? Yeah. But to be fair, I have listened to it since, and it is really funny. And I think it was Reclaimed Audio was one of the others, and a couple others I don't remember. So I started listening to those 2, really enjoyed it, and obviously discovered Jimmy, Bob, and Dave through that. And really enjoyed it, and enjoyed their kind of take on things, and was listening to a few other like maker related podcasts, but couldn't find any that had a kind of UK or European take on things. So there was Makers International running at the time, but I hadn't discovered that at that point, and kind of thought, well, if I'm just starting out on this journey, I might as well start a podcast with a friend, and kind of document that whole journey all the way up through. And so my friend Rob was also starting to do a bit of making, and he already had a podcast going, so he knew kind of how to do podcasting. And yeah, we recorded a couple of episodes and we kind of went from there. And then the next thing I know, which segues beautifully into the introduction of the one below me, yeah, the next thing I know, we're getting guests on that end up being regular hosts. So that, yeah, Al, basically, he was a guest on the podcast. I think it was only like episode 4 or 5 or something like that. And it was because we'd started interacting on Instagram. A lot of my interactions come from Instagram. And yeah, we started talking back and forth. He was very complimentary about like some of the photos that I'd taken. I watched his first video and was absolutely perplexed as to how this guy was not more famous than he is, and then realized that it was literally his first video. But yeah, so Al is, I mean, Al's been a chef. He's been a graphic designer for years. I'm not entirely sure what his job title is at the moment. I take the mick and say it's chief colorer inner, but it basically seems that if there's a project going on, they just kind of take all of the stress and all of the things that need doing and just give it to Al. And then he just churns that into something amazing. And yeah, he got into the maker world around the same sort of time as I did. Started making videos. His first video was making the Hack Shack of Al's Hack Shack fame, which was a really good, really interesting, fun video that was quite long. And since then, his videos have become less instructional and more
baconish.
Yeah, like more insanely crazy, wonderful. Just like the production that goes into them. They're not. I don't consider them to be just for people from the maker community. They are just wonderfully entertaining videos that contain so many weird references and nods to other makers, other films, other genres, other bits of music that I genuinely cannot keep up with all the references that go into the videos. So yeah, that's Al. Al, do you want to take it over and expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, so I've had several previous lives, as Steve kind of hinted at. The only Canadian connection is that my family is from Canada, but I've never been and have no desire to because it looks like America. And let's kind of fast forward to late teenage years, what you want to do with the rest of your life. I was too busy in the pub with my mates and playing football, so I had absolutely no plan. I had no understanding of what you were supposed to do or decisions you were supposed to make. And I just ended up going to uni to do something one of my friends told me to do, which was electronic engineering, which in 2021 sounds like quite a sensible thing to do. But in 1999, it was not a very sensible thing to do. And the whole kind of revolution that we live in of tech was non-existent at that point. And I just got completely disenfranchised, and there was no future in it. There was no jobs going. All the jobs were in mechanical engineering and automotive engineering. And I just felt very kind of confused and naive and angry with the world. So I did what all people of that inclination do, and that was go and start work in a kitchen, because when you're angry and depressed and a sort of young man who likes drinking and fighting and music and and eating kebabs, you go and work
Getting shouted at.
Yeah, getting shouted at, getting paid very little. You like going work in a restaurant. And that kind of snowballed into essentially running and owning a restaurant. And it was at that point that I realized that is a horrific industry to be in.
Yeah.
If you, I mean, unless you kind of hate the cinema, hate going to watch sports, hate going to restaurants, hate sunlight, hate your friends, hate your family, and hate sort of the basic functioning of your body, it's a horrible job to have. The actual producing of food and entertaining people and creating is beautiful, but the abuse that you put your body through in the catering industry is not sustainable.
Yeah.
So I made a conscientious decision to go back to school. And if there is anyone watching, listening, who is under the age of 30 and doesn't know what to do with their life, I highly recommend going back to school as a mature student or an adult learner, for want of a better term.
Yeah.
Because I got out of that experience 1,000 times more than my whole school career or university. Go on, Steve.
When you did that, were you a full-time student then?
Yeah. Well, no, I had 3 jobs at the time because I couldn't get a loan. So
yeah, but
I was,
but
oh yeah, it was a full-time. It was a full-time course. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Couldn't recommend it more. I loved it. I loved every minute of it. I got a lot more out of it. I understood what was needed of me and why we were doing things as well. And so I completely retrained as a graphic designer. At the time, I didn't even know what that was. I thought it was comic book drawings. So I went to my interview with a stack of comic books I'd drawn because I thought it was about graphic novels, designing graphic novels. That's how my head worked. I got laughed at in the interview, but he said I could draw, so he let me on the course. And then I ended up taking a sort of placement in Amsterdam and living there for 6 years. And it was while I was in Amsterdam, I realized that YouTube was not just about cat videos. There were actually useful things on YouTube.
The devil
and I watched there's still cat videos. I ended up watching a gentleman carving a spoon on a bandsaw. And I thought, this is great. There are people showing you how to do things and make things and build things for free on the internet. This is amazing. This is great. And it's entertaining. And I got hooked and I kind of fell down a rabbit hole and I started watching the Ben Heck show, and that kind of rekindled my love of electronics. I fell down the woodworking well. And people like Matt Cremona and the Wood Whisperer and Wood Talk Steve, same as you.
Yeah. Good thing you pulled yourself out of that, because
I know it's a terribly absorbent well. And then again, that led me on to people like Bob and Alec to make stuff and all these kind of storytellers and people in this community that have kind of built it from day dot, I suppose. And then I came across Jimmy. And I didn't realize at the time that he was the person I'd watched years earlier making a spoon on a bandsaw, because obviously you don't see Jimmy's face in a lot of his early videos. You just see his hands. And it was only when it clicked that this was the guy that basically got me into YouTube. Before I even knew YouTube a thing, before I knew the maker community was a thing, it was Jimmy. And then it clicked on me. This was a guy I'd watched years before this on the Discovery Channel, fixing up pinball machines and rusty cars in a garage in New York with Johnny, and it all kind of fell into place. And it was kind of like, this is not a sign, I'm not a sucker for the supernatural, but there's something going on here where I keep kind of stumbling back into these people in this community, and then from this kind of woodworking thing, I thought, let's go a bit more English, and I found the Makers International guys. They invited me on their show. We were talking about building a shed, so I built a shed. And then I bumped into Steve at Yandles. And then the rest, as they say, is his story. And by his story, I mean Brett's story. Ooh. Because I, again, stumbled into Brett via the Dirty Smith Zombie Challenge, which is sadly missed year upon year. And it was just a kind of polite email conversation about, do you mind if I also make something that sets on fire? I don't want to tread on your fiery little toes. And that very civil and ended up into a friendly conversation, and back and forth and designing and stuff. And again, there's a recurring theme here of me being a fucking idiot and not understanding things. I didn't realize that Brett was Jimmy's shop assistant, for want of a better term, executive.
Assistant to the
manager. Assistant to the regional manager. Because I'd obviously heard Jimmy talk about someone on the podcast, but it never clicked in my head that was Brett, and that Brett was the same person, because Brett's incredibly talented and hardworking and gifted and creative. Jimmy was describing this little girl that swept his floors and didn't really give him the credit that he deserved. So my brain didn't click. But yeah, that segues nicely into Brett's story, who I very quickly became addicted to his YouTube channel for many of the same reasons, Steve, you were talking about, which is about storytelling and ingenuity and an interesting spin on things and something I'd not seen before.
Yeah.
All wrapped up in the comforting, snuggly blanket of cultural references that just make you feel at home. And the instant I turned Brett's channel on, I felt at home. And I think that's a lot of us have felt this way in this community with each of our kind of offerings. So I'll hand over to Brett, and he can tell us a little bit about working in IT.
Feel like my heart just grew a couple sizes. Thank you. It was very sweet of you, Al.
So it's now 2.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I'll try and kind of use Al's example. Let's fast forward to the later years of teenagerhood. So I really had a decent direction going out of high school. Growing up in a small town, I was the weird kid that would sit in my parents' basement and just draw and doodle all day and not go outside. So it wasn't a hatred of the sun, Al, and I'm glad that didn't lead me into the restaurant industry, but I knew that I really liked drawing and artwork and this creative stuff that I was doing. And because at that point in time, there just wasn't a lot of it going on around me, I felt like it was something very unique, right? So latched onto that, went to a local college and went through their art program, studying graphic design and illustration. I was ahead enough in credits because I was an overachiever in high school. So I had a lot of free credits to, I don't know, pick and choose. Got into some theater design classes and built backdrops and worked with my hands, but definitely under a very controlled situation of like, well, you'll hit some stuff with a hammer and you'll put some 2x4s together, but let's, you're not all carpenters, so let's not let anybody get hurt. But between that and some art history, I'm like a few credits away from an art history minor. So I was just trying to surround myself with all of these creative works for, spanning hundreds, if not thousands of years, and just trying to wrap my brain around what it meant to be a creative person or somehow find a job in said creative area. We bypassed that because I got a job offer as an intern by way of my brother, who was so goddamn sweet and like kind of pushed for me to go move out to Las Vegas like right after college. So I didn't actually have to spend that much time thinking about what I could do next. It was just like, hey, do you want to be 21 and live in Las Vegas? I was like, yeah, that sounds like a good time. So I went out there just as an intern because I wouldn't call it a lie, but I had done some like random video editing projects and stuff in classes. So I kind of knew my way around Final Cut enough to, be able to like edit in this program and export something out for viewership. So I worked at the local media company in Las Vegas for 3.5 years, where I was just producing whatever daily videos that they wanted. It was kind of at the inception of what it meant to have online news source or online media in general. And it failed miserably because no one could figure out how to run ads successfully on it. Like that was why our company 86, 200 people or whatever in one surprise day of just sweeping everybody out. Like, you're not here anymore. We're out of budget. Get out of here. But they were trying to develop an ad revenue system based on online media, right? Because they saw the trend of people going to Google and trying to look for whatever daily videos, or if it was a local news source, they were reposting stuff on Vimeo or like a random platform site. So I give them massive credit, and I learned a lot in the process. I got to work with a guy who had a lot more motion graphics experience than me, and kind of get to like take more from him, expand all that stuff that I had learned, like good theory and good practice in college, and then put it to practical use with that job. And then I had a producer who really like grinded us down on being able to edit efficient and shoot efficient. And it was all fun. I wasn't making much money, but I had a really good group of friends, and we were all kind of around the same age, and we were all transplants, that had been brought in from other states. So it was like a really healthy environment for that point in time, while being an extremely unhealthy environment for a bunch of 20 to 25-year-olds that had kind of some extra cash to go throw around, and also full green light to go to any club or anything like that, because we were with the media. So we had a hell of a couple of years, but it started to kind of weigh on me, especially after I lost the gig. I couldn't find work because all of media and all of journalism at that point in time took massive hit. And this is like 2009, 10, something like that, 11. And I couldn't find work, so I ended up going on Craigslist and looking up a bunch of, like help wanted ads, and just doing the best I could to try and bring a little bit of extra income in. That led me to working at a media convention because I had enough experience to work for this stock media company. And that's where I happened to meet another guy who had signed up for that classified ad. And a couple months later, I was in Africa filming a TV show, which I've talked about periodically in either other episodes here, or if you listen to the Full Blast podcast, I go into a little bit more detail. But it was 4 months of my life that was absolute insanity, and like pushed me to every possible limit that I could. Got arrested twice, we're like bribing people at border crossings. I don't know, passport nonsense. Barely made it to my flight in South Africa. And then when I got back from that, I didn't have any work. Like, I was back in Vegas. I had no work. Some unfortunate series of events during said TV show led to me not getting paid what I was supposed to get paid, and also spending money to get myself out of Africa. So I came back broke and no direction whatsoever. And I think, like anybody that's been in that situation of depression and broke and, just nothing going right, it felt like, I moved back to Kansas City, where I'm from, and I lived with my parents at age 25 or something, and just felt like I had failed miserably because I was back in the place where I grew up. I told myself I wasn't going to be there. But it helped me get my legs underneath me. And I actually started working for a buddy I had worked with in my college years, doing silk screening and letterpress production, and working for this really cool boutique print shop. And the guy was kind enough to pay me an hourly wage that was at least manageable and could help me get back on my feet. Got an apartment a few months after, felt a little bit more independent, started to feel a little bit better about things. And then another friend of mine from back home asked if I wanted to work as a designer, but also builder. And we did exhibition hall and trade show booths and signage and all kinds of stuff. Basically, clients would come to us or to the company, request a bunch of things, either for an exhibition hall or a museum or something like that. And then we would build it. We'd design it, pitch it to them, and then we would build it. So I started to cut my teeth just a little bit on being able to use a bandsaw, which, God, I didn't know how to use a bandsaw. And like, I tried welding for the first time, and it was horrible. Nothing was okay about that. Fast forward a little bit more, got a job offer from the media company, the stock media company, for more money. And also I could work from my apartment, satellite for them. and we were like based in New York. It was a startup company. It was one of the first 10. Felt really good about it. I was just talking to people about video and production and motion graphics. Super up my alley, and it also meant that I was waking up, making coffee, and working in my underwear, which was like, that was pretty fantastic. They ended up offering me an actual job if I moved to New York, and I took it in a heartbeat because I had always wanted to try living in somewhere like New York. And 3 years of that kind of destroyed me. And we'll fast forward through these next few parts, but corporate takeover, job title changes a million times over. I got pushed under a bunch of management, even though I had like been with the company longer. And I was really unhappy because I didn't feel like there were strides being made. It was like 2 steps forward, and then they put 4 people in front of me that I had to send emails to and have meetings with on a regular. And I couldn't stand it.
Enterprise killed the spirit.
Yeah. So like I had my friend Alex, who's been on the podcast before. Alex lived in the area, and we started kind of spending the weekends just building random things for the house. You know, get a little bit of lumber and a couple tools and try and put some things together in his backyard. And I really loved it. And almost like Al and Steve, I don't know how I stumbled into these. Like, I found the Making It podcast. I was watching Jimmy's videos early on, and I had my TV in my apartment, and I would just start it in the morning, and there'd be these like auto playlists that would just be, Jimmy's videos or Bob's videos or any of those kind of original guys. And then I found Colin Furs, and which, can you guys remember? Like, we had Colin Furs on our podcast. I don't know how you swung that one out, but that was pretty amazing. And then it was like Laura and Jocko and all the people that, were surrounding this same kind of community, and these names started popping up really regularly. I was like, wow, I really like what these people are doing, and their videos are really cool. I like the production aspect of it. So I found out Jimmy his workshop was 6 blocks from my place in Union Square that I used to work at. So I sent him a random email. It was just like, hey, I'd love to come by the shop. I've been watching you for a long time now, which it was probably kind of a lie at that point. Like 3 months is probably not that long. But he fired back. It was just like, yeah, show up whenever. And I was like, oh my God, like somehow I cracked through this guy's email. Let's come to find out that I showed up, and there were 3 other people there. They were all fans. It was a very regular thing that people just knew where his shop was, or they'd text him or DM him on Instagram, and he was very kind and would just allow people to come in and see his workspace. But I remember having a conversation with my buddy Alex after the first time I met Jimmy, and I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to follow this path. I want to see if I can work with this guy, or like maybe use his shop, quit my job. I don't know. And Alex, being the smart adult and responsible person that he is, was like, hold on. We got to make sure this is going to be okay for you financially and lifestyle changing wise, and mostly financially, like don't go broke trying to follow this. And so it was let's say a month of planning, and we were honestly spending hours talking about what would change, what would I need to do, how would I need to prepare, and how would I need to kind of gracefully leave that company that I'd been with for 5 years, because I was one of the originals. And if I left, like, what? It already felt very cliquish with like the original crew, and then this like 80 people that came after the fact. So if one of the originals leaves, like, that's a big deal. Do they know something that the rest of us don't? Is the company going to fall apart? Yeah. So I had a couple of fun talks with the new CEO, and it was basically like, I would like a raise, or I would like a position change. I would like to be not behind all of these people. It was a total dick move, and I was kind of setting it up for like, it was an ultimatum. Now that I look back at it, it was like, you do it or I'm leaving. And I was trying to be more professional than that. But I had spent, let's say, 2 months working and then going to Jimmy's and sweeping the floor and kind of trying to be useful while I was there. And that was it. I would just do that every day as often as I could. And I just enjoyed the hell out of being in the shop environment. So I eventually called a meeting with the CEO early one morning and said, I am going to leave and I'm going to go make things for a living. And the guy looked like a deer in headlights of like, but you have a paying job living in New York City. What are you going to do? Go make chairs? And I was like, maybe. And that sounds better than this. I hate coming to work every day. I loathe sitting in front of my computer and doing this stuff. And I so look forward to leaving and then going down to Jimmy's shop. And I think it was the day right before that. This is what like gunshot the decision was. I was listening to Making It, and Jimmy had mentioned me a couple of times in episodes, but he actually specifically called me out and then said, thank you. He said, I know Brett listens, and I just want to say thanks for helping in the shop. And I went home that night. I went to Alex's. I was like, I'm done. That's it. I haven't heard thank you at my job in 3 years. Like all these new corporate people, I don't like it. And it just felt like the universe was trying to tell me something. So I quit. I didn't tell Jimmy. And then he found out like a week later. He just goes, did you quit your job? Why are you here earlier every day? I was like, well, everything that happened after that was like it's a flash. I started working for Jimmy kind of as often as I could, but like it was kind of an unpaid, let's call it an internship or just assistant. I chose to be there. We had a really good talk about it where he's like, I don't need extra help. I don't want to pay anybody right now, or affordability, whatever it was. He was really upfront about it. And, a couple months later, he got basically forced out of his city workshop, and I didn't want to stop. So I moved to upstate, to be part of everything that was going on. And I just figured I'd make it work, do odd jobs, continue graphic design, animations, whatever I could do to help make extra scratch. And it was 3.5 years of meeting all of you people, going to events, learning a lot more about these various trades, like, working the long hours, and some days were more arduous. Some days were so much fun. And that's just part of the work, right? You sign up for this thing and it's gritty and you just got to get to it. You watch Jimmy, who's a machine, and he can just work. And it's motivating. Like it makes you just want to try harder and work harder. So I learned a lot of work ethic and a lot of machinery and a lot of like, where are the passions? I was given every machine that you could possibly want to learn how to make things. And it was kind of like, well, we're going to work while we work, but after we're done with work, if you want to try or play with anything, or if you want me to teach you or anything, like happy to do it. So I got taken through all of these different crafts, and I don't know, we started having the classes, which made it even crazier because then I was there on site learning from people who were professionals. And then I got to see the students interact with those people and kind of put it all together. And well, I'm learning a lot listening to the teacher, and now I'm seeing the execution for students, and how are they using the machines different than what everybody else is doing. I feel like it was 3.5 years of just taking it all in and trying to be as much of a sponge as I could. Luckily, I met, and I feel like it's been getting better and better. Now I live out in the desert. I moved out here to be part of the kind of Maker Ranch crew and got a property that I'm now actually getting to work on. I do a lot more blacksmithing than anything else, and I'm getting more into sculptural and these displays and this, this fossil client. I feel like I've taken the long way round, and I mean that in a very positive way, but I've taken the long way round to loop all the way back to, I went to art school because I wanted to create beautiful things. Thanks, Steve. I appreciate it. Dick. So I'm coming all the way back around full circle to being back into my artistic home place and being able to create things that I like creating, and then hopefully get appreciated by somebody else on the receiving end. But it's taken a long ways to get here. And I feel very good about it. That's me.
So, I mean, are you not going to introduce Kjell as well?
The thing is, I needed you to prompt me for that. Do you guys remember what it was like when we went to MC that first year and how odd it was to meet each other and all of these delightful people that it's for some reason followed the Fools with Tools? And then I meet Kjell, who it's outrageous to think of how involved and how like find a use for Kjell. He'll do it at an event that has never existed before in a place none of us have ever been. And Kjell was like, you couldn't shake him. Anything that was asked of and anything you needed was this guy that I had never met before. And he was just a powerhouse and also just super welcoming and really nice to everybody. And I felt like you were connecting people that maybe hadn't met before, or you had met them that day, but you knew they were going to get along. Oh, you should meet these people. They'll help with this thing. It was, you were somehow this weird core that had developed in like 48 hours of everybody arriving. And then the event actually starting, everybody knew who Kjell was. And whether it was just like the energy that you brought to the situation, I don't know what my expectations were, but it was almost immediate that everyone was like, Kjell's the MC. Kjell's in charge of everything. I don't know who Nick is. Nick Zametti's somewhere around here, but this Kjell guy is the one that everybody needs to be attaching themselves to or asking anything of. And I feel like it's been nothing but positivity surrounding you since then, Kjell. Like anytime you show up at an event, anytime people get to hang out with you, like I know you and Stu were hanging out just the other day, but you have this strange draw that when you show up, like it's business time. You've been at 10 Makers. You are a hub for the German maker crew. And I feel like every time you show up to the more international stuff like MC, you are nothing but delightful. And I don't really know what the fuck brought you to all of that.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess, honestly, it was my mom.
It doesn't mean who literally brought you to make a sense.
Yeah, I know. And she wasn't bringing me there. No, she brought me to making, basically. She whenever I remember when I was small, I could just go downstairs in her little workshop. We never had like big houses or anything, but there was always like a little shed in the basement where you could do stuff with your hands and build things. And that pretty much brought me to making. And fast forward to my teenage years, which I won't skip, I had my like up against my parents thing and did IT completely wrong way around, you know. I got interested a lot in how really high tech works. So I did that, which I'm currently still doing. And yeah, I guess once I found out that actually you need sometimes a bit off-screen time. It's very much fun to build stuff, and that's how I got back into it. Then I found this open shop in Hamburg where I can volunteer at, and that's just fantastic to be able to be loud and dusty and unprofessional and be guided and all that stuff in the middle of the city. So I started to try and involve myself there. And yeah, then I started looking up, well, how would I actually do something I didn't build yet? And started to look at YouTube and all that. And yeah, found Laura and a lot of other people that I just enjoyed watching. And I think the first like live interaction was actually with Laura at the festival. I'm now living nearby it. We got very drunk and we're talking about we should actually do something like she was showing in New York when you went with her to the Maker Fair there, the whole crew, so to say, and they did a Q&A session, a panel talk. Mm-hmm. And then I said, well, that we should do that, right? And she's like, yeah, do it. And well, then I had to do it, I guess. So then I did it at the Mica Fair, and I was starting to actively approach people to come. That's how I met Gerald for the first time. G, shout out, Lucas, many people that are now like real friends. And I also met Jaco, which then somehow told a guy that approached me I would be available for doing the host on a show, and I was like, who's that guy? I don't know. Nick somewhat, couldn't remember the name. And he's like, yeah, I want to put on the show. It's called Maker Central. And it was like, wait, I think Jimmy talked about this. And well, then I got nervous and said yes. And
most people would have got nervous and said no.
I don't know. It's really crazy because I went there early in order to help set the whole thing up. And I think from then to pretty much when we left the place, I was either drinking, talking, or I don't know, something like where I had to be the powerhouse and run around and give water to Jimmy that was standing there for like, I don't know, 8 hours straight. He is really a machine. And then Alan pulled me out and said, well, you know what? You have to eat something. And then I sat for 15 minutes about something. And yeah, still thanks, Alan. That was very needed. And yeah, then everything else just evolved from there. And I was really happy to have found a group of people that is so inviting and appreciates if you try to connect people. And that's what I try to do ever since.
I got to give Nick credit for however he made that decision. Like, good on him for picking somebody like you. Because what do you think? Like, they would have gone to like Rasmus. Yeah, check it off the bingo list again, John. But they would have They would have grabbed Rasmus because like he's young and enthusiastic. All he does is talk about axes and his giant dog all day. It's weird. But it was really nice to have met you and then be able to return, second year of MC. And really at that point, I feel like everybody knew you were the guy to look to, or that you were going to be kind of in charge. And now this whole Kjell Watch thing that's going on in the comments, and I do miss those days. Kjell Watch was for real something fun to follow. And it doesn't even feel like, I mean this in the most positive way, but it wasn't like they asked Jimmy to run everything, or, one of these YouTubers' names that like they chose them as the MC because they have numbers following whatever it is. We want somebody, quote, famous to be running everything. It was such a good choice, and it makes me feel so good to know that we have somebody like you as a central figure in a lot of these events. And you've got this beautiful property that you're putting back together. That anvil is jealousy inducing. I'm very upset about how amazing that is, but I hope that after everything starts to clear up, that we'll just get back into that groove of what it means to have Kjell run the house.
Oh yes, please. Yes, I would really. I mean, I think, it was like 3 times now. No, 2 times now. 3 times. Yes, 3 times that I said yes to the next event. Sorry. Hey, would you come for next Maker Central? Do it again. And I'm like, yes, I'm booking flights. And I put everything on the right and go to booking.com, figure out the hotel and all that stuff. And well, okay, now cancel again. Okay, shit. Yeah, but let's hope next time will actually happen.
Fingers crossed.
That is a good segue into the next question. What are you planning for next Maker Central?
Ooh,
building a tank.
Oh, okay.
Hell yes.
What?
A tiny tank.
Okay.
T-shirt tank?
Yep.
Yes.
That's fantastic.
That's very good.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, because I'm not sure if we as in the Forge will be there or not. I it's quite likely that we will be, but it's kind of a weird one because I love being there as the Forge, but at the same time, I'd really like to be able to like go around the show and actually enjoy it and not be like. I mean, last time was a long day, and obviously the event finishes, the doors close, and everyone leaves, and we still had a load of cleanup to do, a load of breaking down, especially on the Sunday. Like we had to obviously break everything down, pack the thing away, and get everything sorted. And even on the Saturday, there was still quite a lot of cleanup. So you kind of get back to the hotel afterwards, like you've got something to eat. Jesus, Chris is in the chat as well. You get something to eat, you end up in the bar, and by that point, everyone's already half cut. So you're having to play catch up and wanting to speak to everyone, and there not being enough time, and it just be like, "Oh, hi, how are you? I'll be back with you in 1 sec. I'm going to go see this person as well. And I'm going to go see this person. I'm going to go see this person." So yeah, it'd be kind of nice to be able to enjoy it a little bit more, but at the same time, it's so much fun getting to kind of take everyone through, even just like the simple nail making and stuff like that, and doing the demos. I think if we do it this year, I'm hoping we're going to do, or next year, I'm hoping we're going to do some more demos and some more kind of like the competitions and stuff like that, like the head-to-heads and stuff, because they were really good fun because we get to G everyone up and have a bit of fun.
Those were hilarious, and some of my favorite memories are Sam and I playing around with each other while we were trying to forge the knights out, and he just came over and struck with me, and then we were like pushing each other around and moving our stuff out of the forge. Some of my favorite moments were just in the forge area. I mean, the vibe over by you guys is so inviting, and we're all very aware that all of you guys are so fantastic to learn from and talk to. You're great teachers. Alex is a delight once you get a bottle of wine in him. And Joe is Joe. I do hope we can get you a megaphone this time around. Kjell, put that on the list.
Got it.
Steve needs to not be yelling all day long because he's just destroying himself.
We tried that at Makers Camp last year, and I can't get on with megaphones. I'm much happier just shouting. Like it's
maybe just normal PA.
Yeah, just some
Brittany mic.
Yeah, Brittany mic. We'll get him the Brittany mic.
Just some like lozenges, be fine.
I'll bring an old school megaphone, like just a cone, right?
Just a traffic cone and like a Stella, sorted.
Perfect.
Al, hang on. Can we go back to this tank? What? Or are you just not giving us any details?
None of your business.
T-shirt.
The people need t-shirts.
They do need t-shirts. But yeah, I think we're probably are we booked on the stage already?
Yeah, booked on the stage already.
Sweet. So yeah, we will be there. We will be doing this, but in front of actual people rather than in front of screens. So yeah, it should be good. I'm looking forward to it.
Does anyone remember where the dice went?
Yeah, it's in bits in my workshop.
I think it is in the back of the workshop.
Yeah, that is right, because we took it back after that first year when we were
exactly.
In the workshop, it was already kind of falling apart.
I wanted to roll it, but
main stage 5 o'clock Saturday.
Yeah,
let's go.
Be there.
Yeah, because I think Al, you elbow dropped on top of the dice in the middle of the road in West Coca.
Yeah. They don't cushion the blow as much as you thought it would. A hollow plastic cardboard box.
but yeah,
my blow.
Really?
But the Make with Makers is also planned already, right?
Yep. Make with Makers. We're also going to be doing the Great British Make Off Challenge. We're still hoping to do the Jenga, Make a Jenga.
Oh, yeah.
So we've got a stand booked for that as well. It's all go.
Planned for 3 years then.
Yeah.
It will be fun. I feel like Maker's Camp was a good gauge, and I know things were it's still small and it's kind of difficult for people to get to, relatively speaking, just because of where it is in upstate New York. But being able to go to Birmingham, however the hell you need to get there, we gotta really blow this one up. I feel like it's just gonna be such a good time. It's been pushed back long enough. Steve
I've been to a couple of weddings during lockdown, right? And there's the scenario is lots of people feel like they have to make up for lost time.
Yeah.
So I'm just warning the staff at the Hilton.
Yeah.
In advance. I don't know. Can you get 2 pints of wine?
Oh, poor
they just need to put a temporary ceiling in there for the stickers. And we can make the sticker wall all the same, but just don't put it on the Hilton's
just give us the access keys to the service lift. Don't worry about sneaking around.
Well, it would make Mr. Malton make a little bit happier if we were able to just tote all of his beer making stuff. Brought a full brewery last time. But do we have questions or something? Actual questions, Kjell?
Yes, I was just looking while we're doing this. There's a question for Al. What's your favorite Katie Tungsten song? I
don't think I can name a single Katie Tungsten. I'm sure it came up at the weekend.
Who is Katie?
Is Suddenly I See Katie Tunstall? That's probably not even the name of the song.
I don't know either. That was from Jamie.
I don't have a teenage daughter, Jamie. I'm sorry.
That's why. Yes, I remember now.
I was asking myself that question. What lists do you have for the podcast? Are you like having a whole list of next topics, or how are you like planning?
You mean do I have a list of the shows?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was asking. So, El, how do you plan this to continue?
So there is a list, and it's kind of broken up into different. None of you will notice this or pay attention to this, but we have sort of different themes of what we talk about, and essentially, I will grab 10 or a dozen of them, throw them in front of the guys, and say, "What do we want to talk about this week?" This is when I remember to do this. Usually, we just turn up a minute before the show starts and goes, "Yeah, so what are we talking about this week?" But when it's actually planned properly, there is a list of things that we want to do, and I mean, I don't want to speak for everyone in the chat, but I think a lot of the reason people still suffer us on a weekly basis is because we do try and have different conversations. It's not the 7,342 types of sandpaper or, the same topics regurgitated. Yeah. It is, we do try and talk about things that sometimes they matter, sometimes it's silly, sometimes it's things we're passionate about, sometimes it's a topic we've never discussed. So it's interesting just having a spin on it. There's a quasi structure, but it's still open to massive abuse and manipulation.
Yeah, and I think like some of the best topics we've kind of discussed have been ones where we've come up with a topic idea, whether that's one from the list or like one of us has thought of something during the week or whatever. But we start off with a topic and then we just go off on a tangent, and it's something that perhaps we didn't think about, but we just get excited about and passionate about. And I think those are the kind of the best episodes for me, are the ones where we're not necessarily discussing a topic for a podcast. We're just chatting amongst ourselves about something that's really interesting or we're really passionate about.
It becomes formulaic if you do it that way. And then it's like, Brett, what do you think about the pocket hole jig? It's like, where are you going to go with that question? Whereas to Steve's point, the most exciting conversations we've had is where suddenly something clicks in your brain and you're like, oh, I've never thought about it that way. Or Brett will discuss something that is an approach that he has in a project and go, fuck, that's how I've been doing it all this time. But I never put two and two together. And I think that's when you'll see Steve. Well, you won't see Steve because it's an audio show. But you'll hear Steve going, ooh, 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 like this, like a monkey that's just got into a hot bath. And that's when the exciting conversations come about, because they're not that preempted. So there's a catalyst and there's a touch paper of a conversation, Otherwise, we just sit around and go, no, what are you up to? What's the weather like? How about them cars?
Yeah, and then it would end with me spiffing somebody who sent me something in the mail.
Yeah,
this
exactly.
Week. It'd be really derivative.
I do think that shows a lot. I think that it's very hard to find another podcast that does it this way, right? You seem to like start with a topic that is quasi fixed, but then most of the time it feels like it derails that much, so everything is original because you go off of that so much. Yeah.
I mean, I think like generally the topic is just an excuse to come up with an alliteration, and that's kind of about it. It's just it's a starter for 10. And sometimes like we get some really interesting topics that work really well. Sometimes we just end up kind of talking on that one topic, and it's not perhaps the greatest episode ever, but it's, I think generally when we find that catalyst, whatever it is, we have some fun conversations.
Mm-hmm. I think it's important too, and maybe this is just my opinion or perspective, but there have been enough moments in episodes or even full episodes, which I'll use myself as an example. The failure episode that was like a year and a half ago or something, when I was making the hammer for Tony, it was really important for me to chat with both of you guys, but also I feel like that's something that most of the community goes through, right? How do you get over that feeling of failing, or how do you kind of strive to learn from that and then move past it and not just dwell on these horrible failures or feeling like you're not advancing? So as much as I like to come here and just chat with my friends and talk about making or aspects of creating things, I also look at this as a platform to chat about life stuff. Steve making huge life changes while we were recording the podcast. It'd be the next week would be like, oh my God, okay, when are you quitting? Or like, when do things really kick in? Or how's the blacksmithing going? Being able to go through that and share it with, Steve was nice enough to share it with the community that we have. These are like growth moments that we have records of, in a way. Like, they may be silly, goofy podcasts, but we have so much has been experienced over the last 2 or 3 years, and we can see it, or we can listen to it, because we have records of all of it. And it's crazy. It is crazy to know that, like, episode 13, I joined in, and then within a week I was bugging the boys because I wanted to come back and hang out. And that feels like ages ago. And I guarantee I've never done it, but I bet if I went back and listened to one of those early episodes, I'm probably just full of vim and vigor and very excited to talk to Al about whatever crazy kooky invention he's working on at that point. Now I don't really care. I just want to hear about the stuff that he's doing with the Scouts and the Vitaras.
Nice.
Yeah. I don't know how long we can continue this. Do we have a schedule? Like,
nah, we can keep going for a bit.
Right. I was about to ask another question that was to past episodes, but I don't think it really makes sense. So the question is rather, is there, so to say, a place where you want to go? Is there anything you would like to change for the future? I mean, except getting rich now, but really not. I hope.
What, in terms of like the podcast, you mean?
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's a weird one. Like the way that the podcast has grown over the years is nothing like I could have envisioned it in the first place. It's nothing like I thought it was going to be in the first place. Like when I very first started it with Rob, I did not expect to get the kind of the involvement that we've had over the years. And for me, I think like the best part about setting up this podcast, and I've said it so many times on other podcasts, on this podcast, on all sorts, is the friends that we've made through it. Like the Facebook group is a great example of that. There's so many good people in it. The treasure trade, the fact that that's allowed us to meet new people, make new friends, and have like actual involvement with the community. Whereas when I first started, I didn't even think about that as a benefit of the podcast. So yeah, it's like just more of that, like more stuff where we get to get involved. I mean, like obviously, yes, it would be great if money wasn't an issue and we didn't have to do anything other than fuck around and talk to each other and make stuff and put on community events and things. But realistically, that's not going to happen. We've all got full-time jobs. We've all got our own stuff going on, and I'd like to be able to do more stuff with the people that listen, because there's some fucking great people that do listen. So yeah.
Physical manifestation of this interaction is what I think needs to happen.
Yeah.
Whether that's, people like Red have often romanticized about the idea of a maker castle, or a maker hub for this community, and that would be the ultimate dream. Whether there's a stepping stone to get there, or an intermediary thing along the way, or a camp, or a temporary situation where we can actually achieve those things, that would be great. Whether Maker Central is the start of that and it's the first stepping stone, but I would love these conversations to become interactions. If I learn something from Brett, or Steve learns something from me just through conversation, imagine how much more valuable it would be if it was in a room with some tools, some actual tools, not just talking about them or not talking about them, as the case may be.
I have to take a little bit of pride in the idea of leading by example too. Just over the last couple of years, what our little Fools with Tools room has done, and the presence that is created with the treasure trade, which, reminder, everybody, John, whatever. This is your reminder. Treasure trade is in 3 weeks or something like that. Do get your shit out there. But being able to do the treasure trade, we did the thing at the second Maker Central, where we had a little bit of a fundraiser for one of our community members. And I even, I got to talk to Bob from I Like to Make Stuff about that thing, because he was asking what all the duck shirts were. And I informed him on what was going on and what we had done. He was just like, wow, that is so admirable. And it's really nice to hear that from somebody like Bob, but nothing demeaning to any of the other podcasts, but it's really nice to know that, like, I don't think any of us planned on relying on this as like a revenue stream or an income thing, but it just means that, me being lucky enough to join in early on, I've gotten to see the growth in our small little group and what it means to have either the events where we can all meet each other because there's a common ground, like, hey, we're all Fools with Tools people, or Make with Makers. That first time that we got to do that, like, that was all hands on deck. The people that we got to bring into the booth and host those classes were all tied together because of this weird little group that we had done. And to me, I think it is important that if we continue this going forward, that leading by example, like, we do not have tens of thousands of dollars of funding behind us and sponsors. We do these things because we call the group out, because we have talented and friendly people that exist within this little crew, and they all want to get put to use. We all want to be useful, and we all want to be helpful. And I feel like if that's the vibe that we're spreading, that doesn't really cost money. That costs time and investment, but I don't feel like that's very typical. And I think we're doing kind of more with less, which is something that we've always touted. We can do more with less.
That's really good to hear. I think most of us are the happiest about, this just staying as is, because Yeah, I think it's helping a lot of people. At least I can speak for myself, and I think I'm speaking for most of the listeners as well. That listening to like generally good people that, I don't know, try to make their life, I guess, is really nice.
Yeah, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, just put that.
I don't know. Steve's not paying attention though, but
No,
I'm reading the chat. Leave me alone.
Yeah. I was actually giving Kjell the space to be able to ask the next question. That was all.
I have no. This is really hard. If you're trying to actually listen to
Hang
the
on, we
person
just
that's
spent half an hour bigging you up about how good you are at this. Come on.
Oh wait, one in between is like, how's your bathrooms?
Almost. I'll say 50% complete. Al, how's yours?
Mine's fine, apart from it's carpeted because Yorkshire.
Yeah. What is it about fucking carpeting the bathroom in up north? Yeah, no, mine is still partly there and partly not. Yeah, it's going to be like that for a little while. It's probably not going to be done before Christmas, so it's fine. But yeah, that was it.
I only have like a few more like bigger questions, but so do we still have time for a proper topic? I guess not, right?
I mean,
that's a bit too long of a stretch. Yeah, I don't know.
We can save them for a rainy day. Don't worry.
Yeah,
that's nice.
Al can put them on his list for
There you go.
topics that we look at.
That couldn't get ignored every week.
doesn't get ignored.
I mean,
doesn't get
a
used.
few of you read the chat. Weren't there any questions in the chat?
There was a
your
load
fucking
of
job.
questions.
Hang on.
There's so many.
I'm just scrolling back. I was too busy laughing at Rasmus trying to.
I was
pretend
actually
to
listening to you guys talking, so I didn't read the chat. That was, I guess that was dumb.
We're all doing a great job.
I need to know
who have you had?
Mr.
Who have you not had on?
Shut. I need to know from Mr. Brune what Rust to Rome is. When do we get to see the three of you take on something like Rust to Rome? Could be the greatest YouTube series ever.
I don't know what that is, but I'm intrigued.
Not a clue.
Rust.
Whilst we all Google what Rust to Rome is, there's another question. Who have you not had on as a guest that you'd like to have on?
Oh yeah,
Dead or alive?
You're coming with me.
There you go. Like, should we say like current people that would actually be able to be on?
Sure. Yeah.
You know, I spiffed him a while back, and I know that from my end of things, I really like to have I don't know, constructive criticism or positive talks when it comes to either owning your own business or making your own stuff for sale, and what it really means to like put yourself out there in your brand, and how to not either undercharge or undersell the quality of the stuff that you create. Spiffed him a while back. His name's Chris Doe, and I met him through the motion graphics community. But if you look him up now on social media, he's huge. Like, he has completely popped off over the last year or two because people are really starting. It's like TED Talks, and he's got his YouTube channel, and he's got does interviews and stuff all the time on Instagram Live or whatever. He's a really sharp guy, but you kind of have to walk in knowing that he's like an awesome shark of a designer and creative person. Like, he can come across as a little, let's say, pretentious or a little bit full of something that is indescribable. But everything that he says is years and years of going through being either sat in front of a computer, like working for a business designer, or running his own company, and then going back and forth and learning all of these best practices and what it means to be a freelancer, what it means to do one-off projects, and how to not undersell yourself. He's so brutally honest And he has people play like devil's advocate with him of like, but if it only takes you a week, why would I pay you, more than if it took you 2 weeks? He's just like, well, here you go. And then slams it down in a bullet list. And it can be a little bit off-putting because I think we're just not used to hearing that much brutal honesty. I like him. I think he's got a really good outlook on something that could be helpful for our creative community.
I think I've seen
Get
him.
out of here, Chris. He didn't send me shit.
Psych.
He
Genuinely
would be a fun one though because he's like outside of the maker community and he would come in and just drop knowledge.
Oh yeah, no. Who was I thinking of recently that would be similar?
I wonder if Al would actually get along with him though, because their worlds collide more than ours do. But I feel like that would be a really fun conversation to listen to Al talk to him.
I was genuinely thinking about asking someone to come on recently, who again would be outside of the community, but would be great. But to be honest, I've always wanted Jim to come on.
Yeah.
Because I think there was a point where Jim was like, I'm not listening to you guys until you get 10,000 listeners or some sort of bravado. But then there's been times when you know that he listens to us.
Yeah.
So tough guy aside, I think he'd be great. And he's obviously, he'd be up for it as well.
Yeah.
But I'd love to have Jim on just to kind of answer for a lot of reasons why a lot of us are here, if nothing else.
Yeah, definitely. I think as well, like it would just be, especially now that that Brett's.
Oh no, pipe down. It was Barnaby. I really want to have Barnaby on.
Yeah.
Good shout.
Yeah, never mind Jimmy. He had his chance.
We're going for that new generation, that Generation Z.
From charming to creative to intelligent to witty, I think he'd be just amazing.
Yeah, no, good shout. To be fair, good shout on both of them. And also for everyone in the chat, we've had so fun. I'm pretty sure we've had so fun.
Yeah, we did.
Yes, we should definitely get her on again. But see, this is the thing: is there's lots of people that I'd really like to get on just because they're like wonderful humans. Like a lot of the people in the group, a lot of people that are in the chat at the moment. But I'd quite like to get someone not necessarily removed from the making community. I'd love to get someone like Nick Offerman. Or someone like that on, like someone that's a little bit.
You want to get someone removed from the maker community?
No, I was. Shut up!
He hosts a show called.
I know where my brain was going.
Right.
But yeah, no, I'd love to get someone like Nick on, just because I think I find him as a really interesting guy. I quite like the idea of getting someone that's removed from the making community on as well. Although I feel like that we'd end up spending a lot of the time actually just talking about the maker community and what it is. But yeah, I think like there's a lot of people just, again, in the chat, like even people that have had their own podcast, people like Alan, because he's funny, as in Alan Scannell, not as in Inside Alan, although we should definitely get Inside Alan on because he's fucking great.
Inside Alan, I feel like that guy's got a story to tell.
Yeah. Sorry, I just laughed at Keith's comment of yes, we love our listeners, you're so important to us, but we don't really want to talk to any of you for an hour. I mean,
yeah, it says the guy who hosts a podcast, but no one else really is on it. So you don't have to deal with anybody.
His podcast. You can't say that. Shh. And what I was gonna say is, Keith, it's not that we don't want our listeners on, it's that we don't want you on. There's a difference.
Yeah. And on the flip side of that, we could have Chris back on for the 17th time, but now he's like famous and weird and different. He used to make fun of us for YouTube and social media things. Now, how the turntables.
But yeah. So basically, I don't know. It's just everyone. Anyone from NASA. Oh, that's a good shout. Someone from NASA. But yeah, I don't fucking know. Oh, I know who. Someone within the community. Fuck you, Al. Don't stop getting exasperated with me. Simone.
What do you mean?
Simone would be fun.
See you.
Definitely.
What does exasperate mean?
What?
It means to make things worse. Wait, that's the other one.
No. Right. Kjell, one more question, and then should we wrap this fucker up?
I think you should get stuff made here, man. I think he builds such ridiculous stuff that is also very techy and would be very interesting to talk to. He's also, it seems like he's also very much in his hack shack and building odd and wonderful stuff all the time.
Nice.
But also, Simone is a great shout.
Yeah, Simone Yates.
Yeah.
Yates.
Yep.
Yitch.
Yetch. Yeah, there was a last good one, I guess, from our newly wedded gentleman, James. What's your unfair advantage?
Unfair advantage? What?
Yeah.
Individually or as the podcast?
No, I think individually.
You gotta puff your chest out a bit, Steve. What do you got? There it is. Murphy.
Murphy is, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's a really weird question. It's a really good question, but fuck, I'm kind of just stuttering, waiting for one of you two to
I
can
look. Can I make a suggestion, Steve? I think the Forge is your unfair advantage. You have Joe and Alex, and however you stumbled into that situation, the way that you did, and like put in the time and effort. At least from my perspective, that is a pretty fantastic place for you to have landed and brought your skills. And I think you're only going to grow with the Forge.
Okay, but everyone in the comments is just saying hair. So thanks, guys.
I mean, mine was going to be the thickness of my hair.
That's not fair. Blonde hair is naturally
twice
thinner.
the thickness of regular hair.
Yeah, I've got the length. You've got the thickness. Brett has
Brett's got the looks.
I think, Steve, your unfair advantage is that you could even explain things you don't know. You're really good at explaining stuff. At least for me, that always was like, I don't know. You're very, very good at shouting stuff with a lovely way of explaining with it. Yeah.
I'm so glad you didn't just stop at shouting stuff then. But yeah, thanks, man. That's I fuck it. Yeah, I'll take that. That's fine. But I mean that's what I was doing in IT. That's why I worked in IT for so long, because I was the intermediary between the techies and the minions, the
others.
Yeah.
Franco, really good at gluten intolerance.
Shut up, Franco, you fucker. Yeah, great. I love the fact that the Morty's like, great answer. I didn't answer. They answered for me. What about you two then? Brett, what's your unfair advantage?
Tenacity. Like I told you guys the whole lead up story thing. And if I had to give myself a pat on the back, it's that I've gone through very high highs and extremely low lows, and they have both challenged me, and I pulled myself out or back to reality multiple times now. And like sometimes it takes longer than I would like it to, and then hindsight becomes the 2020 thing of like, wow, how did I do that thing for so long and let that affect me or guide me? But tenacious, like gotta be tenacious, gotta push through all the bad shit, gotta read what is truly the good stuff and what you should pursue. And I think it's taken me, I've still got a lot of learning to do in the rest of my life, but I accept pretty much any challenge that'll come my way, and I don't really back away from stuff out of fear anymore, because I've proven it to myself enough times that I can do more, or I can go further, or I can pick up and move across the country in like 2 months, whatever needs doing gets done.
Sorry. The best comment in the chat so far of the entire thing was just as you said that, Morty turned around and Morty said, "It's pronounced Tennessee," and I think you mean Kansas. We have the best fans. Oh shit, they're bad.
I love how we can't have like a legit answer session without somebody just completely taking a piss.
It's impossible.
Yeah. Al, come on, finish her up. What do you got?
I'm gonna curveball in true Al style and say that there's no such thing as an unfair advantage. At the risk of quoting Arnold Palmer, the harder I practice, the luckier I get. So I don't think an advantage is unfair. I think it's, to your point, Brett, it's earned either through stubbornness, cloaked as tenacity, or experiences. And I don't have any fingerprints. You could say that's an unfair advantage, but it's just from burning my fingers a lot and sanding my fingers and cutting my fingers. Tolerances to heat and pain that have gained over the years of working in kitchens. You could say it's an unfair. I can pick things out of a deep fat fryer. Yeah, is that an unfair advantage?
Yeah,
I don't know. Or have I earned it?
Yeah.
I mean, Red joked about insomnia. Like, you could argue that is an advantage because I can get more done, but it's also not pleasant. So I don't know if it's unfair or balanced.
Yeah,
I think there's balance with everything.
I think that's a really good point as well, though. Like, one of those like unfair advantages things or what? Fucking hell, I can't do words tonight. But like the idea of it being an unfair advantage, I think is something it's only an unfair advantage if it's something external that's been given to you. So say, to be fair, even winning the lottery, like that's not necessarily an unfair advantage because you played the lottery, you win the lottery, you get what you get what you put out there, sort of thing. I think thanks, Red. Red's just said my unfair advantage is worse.
Not sure that's how the lottery works either, Steve. You don't get back what you put in.
But you don't win the lottery if you don't play, sort of thing. Like that's more what I was meaning. As in, like,
you miss all of the shots you don't take. Wayne Gretzky, Michael Scott.
Yes, but yeah, no, like if you, a lot of the stuff that we talk about, it's stuff that, like you say, you've earned from in some way, shape, or form. And like, I don't know, the whole advantage thing. I mean, I don't want to start going off on one because it could quite easily be an entire topic. But I think, like you say, most of the stuff that people think of as being an unfair advantage is in terms of personality. I think it's stuff that you come by through hard work. I mean, there's the whole thing about I know at the moment there's a lot of talk about like ADHD is a superpower because it means you can do this, and this, and it's such a weird kind of route to go down because yes, it can allow you to do certain things. Like yes, you get the hyperfixation and you're able to do this, that, or the other, but it comes with a whole raft of other things that aren't exactly a superpower. And it's I think with those kind of personality traits, like you say, that it's all stuff that's earned and nothing comes for free. There's no it's the whole thing of there's no such thing as a free lunch. Like you always have to earn it in some way. And I think that's the same with personality traits, with calloused hands, with fucking however you want to put it. Like it all comes from working for it. And I don't even want to say like, oh, that's our unfair advantage is we work for it, because that's bullshit as well. But like I don't like the term unfair advantage because, like I say, unless it is something that's just been given to you out of thin air, I think it's just the roll of the dice. So yeah, I don't know. I know what I mean. I'm just not wording it very well tonight, if that makes sense. Yeah.
And that
is
I just saw Morty's comment as well saying that's spiffing.
Come on.
And
You're
now we're going to
milking that one.
Wait, did he just throw to it and we got nothing?
Yeah.
Okay, now we're ready.
Right.
I will go last. Just saying.
Well, I was going to say it's down to Al.
Well, up to you.
Yeah.
Actually.
Al, have you got an order?
Yes. No, it's cabs. Because it's a
Cabs.
car, and we haven't talked about cars.
Ooh.
That puts Kjell first. He said he wants to go last.
It's not up to him.
Okay, so I guess it's a bit. It's what I have to do. I'm sorry about it, but I will just spiff the first episode because it was the beginning of all this. And come again?
He means 6th.
Or that one. But yeah, I would like to spiff you guys because there's just really not a better thing to do in the 200th episode. It's a lifesaver for some. It's a great pleasure for others. For me, it's uplifting and motivating, and I think it's making me a better human. And I want to say thank you for that.
Nice. Thanks, man. That's really... I like that. Thank you. Cabs, that means Al, you're next.
I would like to spiff the episode 33, a little tale told about everyone's favorite imaginary woodworker.
That was very good.
That's
Jeremy Ash.
Yes.
Yeah, the guy that taught my football team in middle school.
Because again, we wanted to do something different, and we did a live video of me drawing something. I can't remember. It was interactive. It was multimedia. It was just ridiculous and, unscripted, and it just felt wholesome and organic. And I'd love to do something like that again in the future, where we just kind of push this media as far as it can go, because I think 3 guys talking on a radio show every week is not going to hack it. So
yeah,
that's why that's my favorite episode.
Nice. Good shout, man. That was on my short list of episodes to
shock
because it was a great episode. Brett, you are next.
Yeah, I'm gonna go for something a bit more recent because I feel like it is a good example of what I would like the guest appearance episodes to be. I think episode 176. Row, row, row your boat. Trent was fantastic, right? Steve and I had listened to read the book, and Trent was getting all of this press and all of this, like his following kind of exploded. He turned into this big deal, and everyone started to take note of who he was. And then here he comes on our little podcast to have a chat about life, the universe, and everything. And it's kind of a reminder that even when you reached out to Colin and got that whole thing set up, like, nobody's unattainable, right? As a guest on here, it was fantastic to hear more about his story and just chat with him one-on-one and have him be part of our little audience. But I remember feeling that way, the first time I met Laura or Jocko or any of the other people that I've been watching for years. Hell, Jimmy, obviously the first one where it was like, oh my God, I'm going to go shake this guy's hand in person. The idea that someone will come on here and have a chat with us and maybe be a little bit more open because we have no filters and nobody that we're responsible to. It's a platform for us to have chats about whatever the fuck that we want. And Trent is a beautiful example of not only an amazing human who is talented and a maker, but no ego, and will come on a podcast with us 3 weirdos and just shoot the shit. And I hope we can have more of that going forward. Doesn't matter with the size of the person or the following or the numbers. I think we've created enough of a vibe on this podcast where anybody should feel comfortable that's coming on, and we just want to hear about them, their story, and kind of what they do.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's my example for guest episodes going forward.
Good shout. Yeah. So for me, I think my favorite episode is the one where none of us are on it. Because obviously I don't tend to listen to them after we've recorded it and put it out. I don't listen to them.
I hope you mean the one that Jake recorded for like 5 seconds.
That was such a good one. Shit, I'd forgotten about that. Fuck. Yes, that is actually a very, very good episode. But yeah, like I mean, I don't particularly like talking about myself, and I fucking hate listening to myself. So like learning to edit became a real because obviously I had to listen to what I was saying. But getting like recently we've had a few episodes where we've got other people to come on and do an episode for us has been fantastic. My favorite, and nothing against the everyone else that's done it for us, but my favorite was the Fools with Tits episode, where we had Laura, Caro, and Heidi on, and it was so much fun, and it was really funny listening to them pretending to be us for a little bit, but also just hearing them chat and kind of hearing other people do the same thing that we do. Like, so just having an unscripted and unfiltered conversation about whatever and just seeing where it goes. And yeah, for me, it was just a really, really nice episode. I mean, I've got a lot of love for all three of them, and just listening to them dick around and have fun was it was really good. So that is mine. I can't remember which episode it was.
It's really upsetting to know how much better those episodes are, though. Every time we have a takeover, it's just better.
But I think to an extent that is pretty much like you would have like unlimited amounts of resources. You could do this all day, right?
Yeah.
Because it's less like regular. Of course, it's also much more different, and yeah, just you're not used to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's yeah. Anyway, before getting too emotional and going off on more rants about it and everything else, is there any other business?
Thank you guys for all showing up. I have no other business. This is really nice. 200 episodes.
Al looks like he's got some.
There'll be something I forget the second we turn it off, but let's see.
Hashtag get Barnaby on. That's the any other business.
I do have one bit of AOB, which is that for everyone that was talking earlier on about getting Soph on, one of the reasons that we love Soph is the 1 year happy birthday video that she put together, which if ever I was ever feeling down, all I would ever need to do is go and watch that video, and it would make me cry. But yeah, if you haven't ever seen the happy birthday video from Soph, go watch it, because it's so wholesome and so lovely, and it's everything about why I like doing this podcast. But yeah, so if that's it, Kjell, where can everyone find you on
Kjelski.
the socials? Kjelski everywhere.
That's it.
Nice.
The local digger shop.
I just shoveled like 3 cubic meters of sand out of my parents-in-law's living room. Good at that now.
Also, I'm hoping you are actually going to buy some furniture soon, because at the moment you're in an empty room.
There's a GoFundMe actually being pulled together by Kjell. I mean,
there is crap there. I can show you crap, but no thanks.
Paint, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I want to build my furniture, but that just will endure until I did that. So.
Right, and if you want to find us, you can find us in all of the usual social media places. You can find me at Moonshine Metalworks. You can find Brett at Skull and Spade 13, and you can find Al at Al's Hack Shack. There we go. Going for the classic. Yeah.
Wait,
you'll
if
find
we're
us-
going classic, can I throw one thing in here? This is for Kurum and Keith because they were chatting about it. You can find me also. I'm in the main memory BIOS of the Polybius machine, so just go find one of those arcade cabinets, and I'm also there. You can find me.
I understood
Okay.
that reference.
Yeah.
I understood that reference.
Yeah, and if you want to find us as a group, FWT podcast, pretty much everywhere, or Fools with Tools, just search Fools with Tools, and we will probably be there. Except for that one time where there was another Fools
They
with Tools.
snuck off into the night, didn't they?
Yeah, they disappeared again, didn't they? But yeah, that's it. So thank you everyone for a wonderful 200 episodes.
Thank you, Kjell, as always.
Yes, Kjell,
Thank you.
absolute diamond.
Anytime.
Awesome. Right, I'm going to end the broadcast. So see you later, everyone. Bye.